welcome to the Inner Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Carolina Salazar, and I hope you're doing amazing wherever and whenever you're listening. If you're a first-time listener, if you're a returning listener, I'm just so happy you're here. I'm happy to be spending time with you guys. And today's episode is going to be a short little solo, and the topic for today's conversation is this idea of seasons of life and learning to both accept life in its seasons and learning that life doesn't happen in a straight line and that's okay, and working with that, right? Like understanding it and then accepting it and then working with it, because I feel like this is a pattern and a topic that's been coming up in my own journey, so it feels very close to my heart, and it's something I've been getting a lot of intuitive hunches to talk about, to come on here and share with you guys. So that's going to be the topic for today's episode. So with all of that said, let's get into the episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it helps you, nourishes you, and leaves you with something to think about, something to reflect on, some food for thought. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the other side, and let's get growing. All right, you guys. So let's face the facts, right? Most of us, I'd say, I would guess, would love to believe or to know for a fact that life is just a straight line and we can predict how it's going to go, and it's just going to be a high all the time and with only good feelings, with only good moments, with only positivity. But the truth is, and this is a hard truth, is that life doesn't necessarily happen like that, right? Life isn't a straight line. Life isn't from point A to point B. It's actually much more cyclical than that, right? And I feel like this concept of cyclicality had been coming up a lot for me last year in 2022 when I made my cycle syncing course, because as women specifically, if you're a woman listening, you would understand this, or as a menstruator, we have a very intimate connection with this idea of cyclicality, because every single month, or every, between 28 to 35 days, we go through a cycle. And once we get our next period, the cycle repeats. And this cycle has a specific pattern. It has certain highs of certain hormones, and then it has certain lows of certain hormones, and that influences how we feel, the motivation that we have, the energy that we have, all these different things. And as I have become more and more attuned with my cycle, this is something that I've really learned about myself, is that I have patterns. I have these cycles where I know in the beginning of my cycle I'm going to feel really excited, full of ideas. I'll be able to brainstorm and pour out so much into paper. I'll have motivation to be filming. I'll feel more beautiful. I'll feel sexier. But then as I enter the second half of my cycle, after I've ovulated, I feel so much more unmotivated. I don't necessarily want to be in front of the camera, but I really thrive like with editing, with doing behind the scenes work, with answering emails, with just like doing refining things, like as I was saying, editing stuff. That work flows a lot more to me, and at the same time, I find myself, doubting my path, doubting where I'm going a lot more frequently. And I've just had to understand that about myself, that I feel a little shitty on those 10-ish days before I get my period. And that is just a part of it. And so in accepting that, right, I've been able to work with my body, and I've been able to implement certain things in my routine, in my habits, in my social calendar, in my work calendar, to just honor that, to respect that part of my body and my mental health and my just overall well-being. So as women, as menstruators, especially if you are not in any form of hormonal birth control, you are very in tune with this part of yourself, probably. Or even if you don't understand it, it still is playing a part in your life and affecting you in the back burner, right? Like in the background. Now, the same thing, the same concept of the cyclicality happens in nature in the seasons, right? When it's winter time, we are more tired. Like we don't really want to go and hang out in a rooftop out in the cold in our jackets. We don't really want to be exploring or traveling. I feel like unless we're going to somewhere warm to like escape the cold, most of us are just cuddled up at home, making hot cocoa or like making soup and resting more. Like we feel lazier. But then like now, for example, when I'm recording this, it's summertime, like everyone is traveling. Everyone wants to be having fun. Everyone's going to concerts. We're all trying different things. We're all going on runs. Like everyone's feeling energized. Everyone's tan and glowy. And same thing about spring and fall, right? Like they have their own energies and they repeat every single year, right? every single summer, the same kind of themes come up, the same kind of energy comes up. And those are just two examples of how cyclicality is an inevitable part of our lives, right? Whether it's in our physical bodies, in our menstrual cycles, or in the seasons that we observe in our lives and that affect us. Like, cycles are all around us. But the thing about seasons in life is that it also applies to our life more in general, right? I feel like there have been seasons in my life where there's been just like change after change after change. And it feels like exciting, or maybe it feels really scary, right? There's just a lot of like low key, a little bit of chaos around. For example, in the beginning of this year, I feel like my life was just like constant change. I moved to Brooklyn in February. I got engaged in March. I ran a half marathon in April. Then I got eloped in May, and it was just like change after change. Like constant things coming up, constant new unfoldings, and it was a lot. It was a lot going on in my personal life. And since coming back from Hawaii, so since the beginning of June and July have been months for me that have been a lot more about tuning into myself, creating routines, figuring out what do I want. How have I been self-sabotaging? What's not working anymore for me? And it's been kind of this season of laying foundations and creating routines and nourishing myself and introspection. A lot of my friends are traveling for the summer too, so I haven't been seeing a ton of friends, which is actually funny to me because I expected summertime to be so social and bubbly. And I've been going to a lot of events, that's for sure, and like meeting new people, making new connections, having new experiences. But for the most part, like on the weekends, it's a lot more flowy than anything. And so it's just been this slightly slower season of life for me, even though there's a lot that's unfolding, like no matter what, right? There's always change going on. Like the only thing we know for sure is that change is a part of life and things are always changing. Nothing is permanent, nothing lasts forever, which is why being present and really sinking into what's currently going on in your life is so important. And I feel like when we are in these slower seasons, sometimes the way that that can affect us is that it can cause us to feel bored or like, oh my gosh, my life isn't as interesting as someone else's. I think especially in the summer, like so many people are traveling and they're going on these Europe trips and they're buying all these cute clothes to take pictures in. And it can be really easy to compare your life to other people's and to feel like maybe your life isn't as exciting as their lives and whatever. But going back to this concept of seasons, life happens in seasons. There might be a season of your life where you're doing a lot of deep healing and you're going inwards and you're doing shadow work and you're doing unlearning and you're just going deep and you're getting to know, like, what are my blocks? Like, why do I talk to myself this way? What are my limiting beliefs? What is not working for me anymore? Like, how am I getting in my own way? What triggers me? And that might be a little bit of a more heavy phase of life, heavy emotionally, right? You might be going through a lot in your brain. You might be thinking about a lot of things. You might be spending more alone time. And then there might be other times in your whole journey where you're feeling expansive and you're tapping into your light and you're tapping into the things that you feel proud of yourself for, and you're expanding and you're integrating and you're going back out there and you're attracting things and you're manifesting things. And then there's going to be other phases of life where maybe the focus is career and you're just like making moves, right? You're applying for jobs or you're trying to switch out of your job and you're deep in interviewing and refining your resume and doing outreach on LinkedIn and you're all in on that. There also might be other phases where your career might not be number one in your priority list, and maybe you're really looking into nourishing your friendships. You're feeling distant from your friends, and so you're opting to pour into them, and you're making the choice to prioritize your friends, to call them more, to make plans of them, to FaceTime them, to text them, to just like nourish your friendships, or to call in new friends, right? Maybe you're trying to go to a new workout studio more frequently and see if the people there are nice and if you connect with anyone there, or you're going to farmers markets and trying to befriend someone there, whatever it is. Like maybe that's what's your priority in that moment. And I feel like because of social media, because of all this constant information that we're constantly integrating into our brain, like we're constantly consuming so much, sometimes it can be really easy to forget that you are in your own unique season, right? And someone else, someone that pops up on your feed or someone that pops up on your For You page, whatever, they might be going through another phase of life. They might be in another season. Maybe it's a season you've already been in. Maybe it's a season that you were in right before this one. Maybe it's a season that's coming up for you. Maybe it's the next one in your life, right? You never really know. And the thing with seasons is that we don't really know how to predict them. You just have to ride the wave. You just have to tune in. You have to be like in awareness with yourself and just be like, okay, this is what's coming up. This is what's going on right now. Like, let me just sink into it. Let me lean into it instead of like trying to push it away, trying to like reject it, trying to avoid it, trying to ignore it. Lean into your own season, lean into the cycle that you're in. Because the worst thing, guys, and I fault this all the time, like the worst thing, honestly, is looking at other people's lives and being like, oh my God, like, why am I not there? Why am I not doing those things? Why are they not me? And comparison just sucks. Like falling to these patterns, it's really hard mentally. Like it really is. And I totally get it because I've been there probably way too many times. And the one thing that I have learned is to just accept the season that I'm in. I feel like something that's been personally coming up for me right now, too, in this phase of like laying new foundations and nourishing myself, is I've been trying to figure out how to share my why. I've been doing a lot of reflection around my purpose and around what I want to focus on. And the biggest advice that I got from my therapist last month was to focus on your purpose in the next year. You don't have to know your life purpose. You don't have to know your purpose to be on earth necessarily. Just focus on your purpose for the next 365 days. Like, what do you want to focus on? Like, what's important to you? And focus on that. Like, don't put pressure on yourself to figure out your life purpose. Like, I've, for so long, like, literally tortured myself to be like, what's my why? Like, what's my purpose? Only to realize that maybe my purpose isn't already unfolded. Like, maybe I don't know exactly what my life purpose is, but I probably know what my purpose is for the next year, and I can focus on that. That's something I can know and low-key control, or like it's something I can have in my brain and feel aware of and feel connected to. And then I can take action in alignment with that why. And so figure out, like, in this phase of your life, in the next year, what is your why, right? And how can you, instead of looking at everyone around you, what everyone else is doing, figure out your own why, figure out what's your focus right now, and just take aligned action with that intention, with that purpose, with that why. Like, F what everyone else is doing. Like, it really doesn't matter. And I feel like the days where this gets to me the most, the comparing and the scrolling and the overthinking and the distancing from my why, happens on the days where I'm really bored and I'm scrolling a lot, or happens on the days where something not so great happened, or I was picking myself apart, and then I'm looking at everything else around me and I lose sight of everything else that is happening, like everything that is important right now, everything that really is going on. Like, I just lose sight of it because I'm over fixating on something, like a flaw, a mistake, a quote unquote failure, or something that didn't go like I wanted, or I'm just bored and I'm trying to occupy my mind. And so nourishing my nervous system and learning to slow down and to be okay with slower energy and be okay with slower seasons has been really important. And actually seeking it out, like seeking out practices that slow me down a little bit more so that I can be present in the season that I'm in. So that's been breath work, meditation, going to bed earlier, not drinking as much coffee, drinking much more water and taking minerals in my water, and really just like taking deeper breaths and not multitasking so much, even though I do fall to it a little bit sometimes. Like, all of these things have helped me feel more present, have helped me nourish and regulate my nervous system so that I can stop being so consumed by all the stimuli around me, which causes me to forget the season that I'm in, to forget to honor my path, my cycle, where I'm in, like, what moment am I living through? What's important right now for me, not for other people, for me. That's the thing about seasons, right? As I was saying in the beginning, like, a lot of the times we want to control and we want to know how it's going to unfold, how things are going to happen, A, B, C, D, like the order that something's going to play out in. What's the next season? What's coming up? But think about a TV show, right? When a season ends and you're watching it live, right? Let's say it's like a new HBO show and it's just being released week by week. Once that season ends, the next season probably is not going to come out for another year and a half. Like, you cannot predict what's going to happen. Like, you can try to go down all these Reddit threads and all these fandom accounts and try to figure out little snippets of the next chapter, the next season, the next few episodes that are coming up. But honestly, you're not going to know until you watch the new season in a year and a half. And I feel like that's a great analogy for navigating seasons in our lives, right? You don't necessarily know what the next season is going to be. Like, you might have hunches, or you might be taking aligned action so that you are contributing to the next season. But life surprises us. Like, life throws curveballs. Life happens in very interesting ways. And we can try to control. Like, I can spend so much time trying to predict the next thing, trying to predict what's going to come up, trying to predict how something's going to unfold or when X thing is going to happen. But honestly, the best things that have landed in my lap, like the best things, like honestly, I have not planned. I've not spent too much mind space on it. I'll give a couple of examples. Like, I have been trying to manifest an experience of public speaking for so long. Like, it has been in my vision board, you guys, for so many years. And this year, it happened. This week, actually. So, yesterday, the day before this recording, I went to go speak on a panel at a Samsung event. Meta invited me to go speak with the Instagram team. So it was me, someone who works on Instagram, and another creator, and we hosted a little fireside chat, and I got to share my journey as a content creator, different things on Instagram that I've used, how I've grown my community, how I nourish my community, all these different things. It was amazing. It was such an amazing experience. I was so nervous before, but it was just so great. And it literally came into my lap this week. So I was invited to participate like earlier in the week. I had not been like trying to engineer this happening. Like, I was not trying to move the needle or like move the cards or make it happen a certain way. Like, it just literally came to me. It just came. And it came in the most random moment ever. Like, I've spent so much time in the past being like, oh my God, I would love to public speak, but how does that work? Would I go to speak in universities? Would I do X, Y, and Z? And then it came up on like a random week when I was not even thinking about it. And that's just one example of like specific things coming into your life, but I'm here talking more about overall seasons, right? And just remembering that like we're emotional beings, right? Our life is full of emotion. It's full of a lot of feelings, especially if you have any water in your chart, in your birth chart. Like, if you have Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer as an important placement in your life, like, oh my gosh, like emotions run high. And overall, I mean, I feel like so many of us feel a lot, but we don't take time to understand our feelings. And so we just go to our head and we try to think our way out of situations, and we try to overanalyze and we overthink and we try to predict things, etc., 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 because we're trying to control so bad. But again, you cannot control what's going to come up in the next season. For that matter, you can't even control exactly what's going to happen in this one. But all you can really do is just understand and honor where you're at. And the worst thing you can do is to compare and to just resent where you're at. Because honestly, guys, life is so impermanent, as I was saying. And I think that many, many people, when they look back on their lives, they wish that they were just more present, right? And when you're in the brink of change, when you're in the brink of a new season unfolding, for example, like you're moving to a new city, or you're moving to a new neighborhood or whatever, or you're moving to a new school or starting a new job, like starting a new relationship, I feel like I always get very bittersweet, and I'm like nostalgic, and I'm like thinking about the past things that just happened and how I'm not going to be able to do XYZ anymore. And I always wish I was just more present. I always wish that I just embrace that season more. And the thing is that you are the youngest, most vibrant right now that you will ever be. Like, every time that passes, like every season that unfolds, every day that unfolds, every year, like you gain more knowledge, but also you just are not going to be able to live that again. And so don't resist where you're at. Lean into it. And one of my favorite quotes, it's not, I don't know if it's even a quote, but it's actually something my dad told me a while ago, is ride the wave that you're on, right? And something that's said a lot in the running community also is run the mile that you're on. It's exactly about that, right? It's like focus on the wave that you're on, right? You can be on your surfboard surfing a wave, but if you're not present, if you're not looking around, if you're not aware of the water, you're probably going to fall off your surfboard if you're trying to predict the next wave. So the best thing you can do is just stay put in your surfboard, hold on to your balance, be present, and lean into the wave and ride the wave, right? Ride it. Don't try to control it. Don't try to predict the next wave. Just be where you are. And I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say, right? It's life happens in seasons. And the season that you're on is beautiful and amazing and is trying to teach you something. And it's not going to be forever. Like, especially when you're in a hard season of life, of grief, of a lot of emotion, of shadow work, of unlearning, of healing. These seasons are hard, but they're not permanent. And the best thing you can do is take away as much of learning lessons and self-awareness as you can, because if you do that, you're guaranteeing that you're going to be more successful and you're going to be happier and you're going to be more grounded and you're going to be more abundant in the next season that unfolds. And it's beautiful, right? And it's something that I'm trying to embody more. It's something that I'm trying to lean into, because I, for example, chose to be in New York this summer, and I, in the beginning, spent so much time like looking into all these people having Italian summers and their little flower dresses and being like, oh, damn, like I wish I was in Italy. I wish I was out there in the beach. I wish I was traveling in Europe, but I'm not. So why would I waste my time wishing I was somewhere that I'm not? And I think that's been something really beautiful that I have learned is like, how can I make this the best summer where I'm at right now? How can I make this the best season for me? How can I work with where I'm at instead of trying to be somewhere else? And remember that nothing is permanent. And the more that you remember that and the more that you choose to ride the wave, the better you're going to feel, right? Ultimately, the better you're going to be able to show up in life and the better results you're going to get. The more you're going to just feel joy and feel presence and feel at ease and peace. And so that's what I wish for you. Like, I hope that this episode just is a powerful reminder for you to take on with you into your day, into your weekend, into the rest of your week. And if it did resonate, please let me know. I love talking with you guys. If you're not part of my broadcast channel on the Carolina Lifestyle Instagram, definitely join that. It's something new I created on my Instagram where I've been sharing little daily takeaways and cute, like, images and just motivational quotes and affirmations, and I want to use it for a lot of different things. And if you're not following innergrowth.co on Instagram, also make sure to follow that, because I have been really loving creating content for that account, and I would love to hear from you on DMs. If you enjoyed the episode, please let me know or share it on your story and tag us, and also send it to a friend. Like, if you've been having a conversation recently with someone where they were feeling this, whether they were comparing themselves to someone else or comparing their life or feeling in a rut or just feeling about where they're at, like, send it to them. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment. I love you guys, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I will see you guys next week. I am so grateful for this Inner Growth community. You guys mean the world to me, and yeah, I'm sending you a big virtual hug. Mwah! And I'll talk to you soon.